Thank you, Bhakti Cyril Prabhu from Montreal for this beautiful chanting. And we shall continue with the divine teachings of Queen Kunti. Queen Kunti, she is the mother of the 5 Pandavas, the heroes of the Bhagavad Gita. More specifically, Arjuna, the hero of the Bhagavad Gita. And being a great personality, all her different pastimes that are depicted in the Mahabharata and the Srimad Bhagavatam, they carry great value, great teachings with them. And this specific chapter dedicated, it's both Maharaj Parikshit, her grandson, and her personal prayers. We read verse 22nd from the 8th chapter of the 1st canto. Thank you for asking that. Yes, and this chapter deals with her intimate relationship with devotional service, and then specifically Krishna. And she really reveals something very, very intimate about the mood of a devotee in general, and of a devotee from a paternal affection to Krishna. She's on Krishna's. Good morning, Laura. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
She's a devotee from. She's Krishna's auntie, and this verse actually that we're going to start from already explains that sort of like a contradiction, like how can God be subordinate to his devotee? Like how can God be taken care of by, and not be like usually when we hear about God is, oh God, give us our daily bread, or God give me a beautiful wife, or God give me riches, right? So here God, he takes a subordinate position. God actually he asks from his devotee. So Queen Kunti, being Krishna's aunt, she shares this dynamic with God, and I find it very inspiring. I thought we can do like sort of like a mixture between how we usually like do the morning discussion, like someone reads and then we discuss, and to interchange the person who like gives the discussion or leads the discussion. And let's say I can start from reading the first verse, then Keith, then Cyril, Leah, like that. Whoever feels inspired can read. If not, it's okay too. You can listen or observe. And we can start from the Sanskrit. And this specific verse, if you hear some of the classes, actually many of the classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam specifically, they from this particular chapter, Prabhupada, he really loves this chapter, and he gives many lectures from there. And in many instances, he demands from the devotees to recite these mantras, the prayers of Queen Kunti, and memorize them. All of them we can try to memorize. Like there's so many beautiful verses from the Brahma Samhita, from Bhagavad Gita. Oops, I did something. And also the prayers of Queen Kunti. And some of them are relatively easy to even memorize, like this one. And it sanctifies the mind. The purpose of that is to sanctify the mind too, but also to enable us to control the mind. Like throughout the day, we so many times, even when we wash our hands or we're doing something on automat, we think about many varieties of things. Not all of them are conducive. Some of them are important, some are not. Some dragging us down, some draining us, some empowering us. So definitely these mantras, if we put them in our head, like I have in my mantra memorization practice, I now memorize some verses from the Brahma Samhita. So these verses too, they're very nice. If we memorize them, every time we remember them, this imprint that Kunti is giving us, it's going to be revealed in our heart. So it's very beautiful. So we start from the word to word. Namaha.
Namaha.
Pankaja Nanabhya.
Pankaja Nanabhya.
Pankaja Maline.
Pankaja Maline.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Pankaja Nitraya.
Pankaja Nitraya.
Namahate.
Namate.
Pankaja Angaraye.
Pankajang Angaraye.
Okay. And if we go line by line, I will recite like one line and you can repeat after me. Namaha Pankajanabhya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Sorry. Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaste Pankajanigraye.
Namaste Pankajanigraye.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajanamaline.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Anyone would like to try to recite?
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
You can start from the first line. Would you like to recite, Cyril Prabhu?
Yes, I will. Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaste Pankajangraye.
Namaha Pankajanabhya.
Namaha Pankajanabhaya.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajamaline.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaha Pankajanetraya.
Namaste Pankajangre.
Namaste Pankajangraye. Namaha. All respectful obeisances.
All respectful obeisances.
Pankajanabhaya.
Pankajanabhaya.
Onto the lotus feet, who has specific depression resembling a lotus flower in the center of his abdomen.
Lotus feet, who has specific depression resembling a lotus flower in the center of his abdomen.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Obeisances.
Obeisances.
Pankajamaline.
Pankajamaline.
One who is always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers.
One who is always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Obeisances.
Obeisances.
Pankajanetraya.
Pankajanetraya.
One whose glance is as cool as a lotus flower.
One whose glance is as cooling as a lotus flower.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Namahate.
Namate.
Respectful obeisances unto you.
Respectful obeisances unto you.
Pankaja Angareye.
Pankaja Angraye.
unto you the souls of whose feet are engraved with lotus flower, and who are therefore said to possess lotus feet.
Unto you the soles of whose feet are engraved with lotus flowers, and who are therefore said to possess lotus feet.
Translation: My respectful obeisance is unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like lotus flower, who are always decorated with garland of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here are some of the specific symbolic marks on the spiritual body of this personality of Godhead, which distinguish his body from the bodies of all others. They are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his specific bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women, Shudras, the laborer class, and the Dvija Bandhus, or the wretched descendants of higher three classes, are unfit by intelligence to understand transcendental subject matter concerning the spiritual name, fame, attributes, forms, etc. The spiritual absolute truth. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as the Archa Vigraha, who descends on the material world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls, including the above-mentioned women, Shudras, and Dvija Bandhus. For some who don't know what is Dvija Bandhus means twice born, or it means a bird, and Bandhu means someone who is he's bound, just like the word bound in English. Bandhu means bound, and it's someone who is not exactly twice born. Twice born is someone who taken second initiation, like in August. If I don't know if the initiation is going to happen this August because of the pandemic, but that's the plan. Nine or eight devotees, they're going to take initiation from Srila Prabhupada here in Alachua. So they're going to take their first initiation. Maybe someone's going to take the second, I'm not sure. I think everyone's taking their first initiation. And there's a second initiation that sort of solidifies the first initiation. And that what is a Brahmana, someone who is firmly fixed in the practice of devotional service. So the Dvijam Bandhus, they're not fixed, actually they're not fixed at all, but they happen to be good friends, or they happen to be family members, some relatives of these solidified devotees of the Lord. So yeah, before we jump into different conclusions why Prabhupada he mentions a very triggering word, the women next to all the other classes. There were different classifications too of women in the Vedic society. Like in general, it's known that women in the Vedic culture will have no independence. But this is not exactly so. Highly qualified women, they would be able, for example, to select their own husband. They'll be able to do all these independent things that we do now. And Prabhupada, he specifically queens and princesses like that. So Prabhupada, he makes just jokes sometimes that in the West, everyone is a queen.
Select.
Or no, select too. They would select a specific husband. Like Rukmini, she wrote a letter to Krishna. Krishna, please come and kidnap me. I don't want to marry Shishupal. So highly qualified women, which will be usually Kshatriya women, like we heard here in the West about like Jeanne d'Arc, right, from France, and other warrior type of women. They would have that ability. Others, which they're just like the working class, or the people who are unfit. Prabhupada calls them unfit by intelligence to understand transcendental subject matter. they don't have that full independence. Everyone has some amount of independence regardless where he's at, right? We all have the amount of independence to surrender to Krishna regardless of our class. Krishna, he says that whoever surrenders unto me, he is liberated, regardless of his position in society, be he a merchant, Vaishya, Shudra, women, this women or that women or men. So, but in terms of if we cannot, because what happens when we independent? It's not like we are independent on our own accord. We show example with our independence, and because some people, they cannot show proper example with the independence, that independence is not given to them fully. But someone who is actually is spiritually intelligent, then yeah, he is independent from any position because he shows the right example. Anyone would like to continue from the paragraph to read and maybe share some realizations? Good morning, Gary, Gajendra Prabhu. We're reading from the first canto, 8th chapter, 22nd verse, prayers of Queen Kunti. So if someone follows where we just stopped reading, he can pick up from here.
I'll read.
Okay.
You left off at Divyabandhu's? Did you? I think. Is that where you left off?
Because such fallen souls
Fallen
cannot
souls.
see anything. Yeah.
Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universes as the Garbhodakshaya
Mm-hmm.
Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen, and thus the Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore, the Lord is known as Pankajanavi. Is that how you pronounce it? Pankajanavi?
Yeah, I think so.
Lord accepts the Archavigraha, his transcendental form, in different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made of wood, or made from earth, or made from metal, a form made from a jewel, a form made from paint, or a form drawn on sand, etc. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers. There should be soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees always engaged in material wranglings. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even to the women, Shudras, and Divyabandhus.
I find this interesting in the previous paragraph how Prabhupada says that there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship. It's like he gives us this responsibility, like the people who attend to Krishna. Because sometimes, like, I don't know, like, I feel somewhat blamed sometimes that the atmosphere in the temple is not soothing or wherever, that, you know, I disturb Krishna, or like Krishna cannot be disturbed. Krishna is always Krishna. But it's sort of Prabhupada gives us this responsibility to make sure that we not disturbing others in their experience of Krishna. I don't know.
When you tried to go to the ISKCON temples, for example.
I haven't been too much there.
Or you said it also in the other temple that you were in, that they wanted you to leave because you were kind of like more of like a lone wolf or something like that. Or do you feel like that here?
Oh, if you want me to give like a more specific example, I'm kind of I didn't thought like that specific, but it's like in general, like sometimes, you know, like devotees they disturb that others are disturbed, but I find it not really responsible, because each and one of us has his own personal responsibility to keep a soothing atmosphere in the temple, like starting from his own art.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I wanted to share.
Team effort.
Maybe what's for one person isn't. Maybe what's soothing for one person isn't as soothing for another person. You know, your wife.
Okay, that's a nice point. yeah, we all, you experience how we have whole different like moods of devotional service. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's like overlaps one another.
Well, that's what.
Your mood is always super ecstatic usually, and mine is very observational. So just between the two of us, there's a lot of different moods.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's what, like what Prabhupada said, the cooperation, because then everybody can have their own little individual way of being, and then the way that we connect is through the cooperation. You know, everybody can do that.
You mean we can like meet and do something for Krishna? And...
Yeah, we just, I don't know, somehow get along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel we're getting along here.
Yeah.
Well,
No, but that's
7 of us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I'm saying it in response to what Leo is saying. Like, I was thinking this in the temple because I read, I can't remember his name right now, but he was the first, he died, he left the body while he was chanting. What was his name? One of the early sannyasis. I can't remember. He's one of a powerful disciple of Prabhupada. I can't remember his name right now, but he sang this big kirtan and then left his body right there. But in his book, it's called Trinadapi Sunichna. He says one aspect of humility is to tolerate but cooperate. You know, so I was practicing that when I was living in a temple, because there were some people, especially one guy, was causing trouble for me intentionally. You know, so I was like, okay, I just tolerate it, but then if he needed help or something like that, then I would try to be right there. You know, like just if they need help with something, so okay, I'm not gonna. You know, but yeah, so that's why I like the principle of the cooperation here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your personal experience of this. Yeah, please continue, Leah. I interrupted you there.
Okay. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even unto the women, Shudras, and Divyabandhus, provided they agree to visit the temple of worship in different forms made for them. Such temple visitors are not idolaters, as alleged by some men with poor fund of knowledge. All the great acharyas established such temples of worship in all places just to favor the less intelligent, and one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship, while one is actually in the category of the Shudras and the women or less. I know Prabhupada talks a lot about us not pretending or being something that we're not, so it seems like we read this a lot. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, waist, chest, and face. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising from the thighs, waist, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet, because the Lord might feel ashamed. And thus Kunti Devi, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet. From the waist of the Lord, i.e. from the waist of the Lord, gradually rising to the face and then down to the lotus feet. In the round, everything there is in order. In the round. What does that mean? In the round? Like
in the round, yeah. Everything is in. That's an interesting expression. Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of the process of deity worship. When you perform arati, we don't do here really arati, but when they do in the temple arati, some of you have been in temples that they do. I think you lived right in one shell temple. So there's one of the largest, if not the large marble deity is there, and they perform like at least 3 times a day, I assume, like arati, or you remember?
I think it's more.
Twice?
It's like no, it's
Once.
like 5 or 6.
Oh, 5 or 6 even. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, they start from the feet, the thighs, like the knees, thighs. They don't jump right to Krishna's face. And the Bhagavatam, actually, the form we read these books, it's very similar, because it's form of the deity worship, the philosophy. And we start from the bottom, like from the first canto, second canto. The third canto is like the thighs of the Lord. Fourth, fifth, the ninth is like the arms that deal with all the like Kshatriya families there. Lord Ramachandra's pastimes are there in the ninth canto. And I notice how Prabhupada, he puts sort of like this part about Leah Tushi. She connected to that we should, how I understood you, that you connected to how we should not like jump over our like stage, right, or something like that, or wherever we at. Like the temple worship is not just helpful; it's necessary to see God, and it doesn't mean, I don't take it as like, okay, we have to go to a specific Taj Mahal, whatever temple. Especially nowadays, how Prabhupada he established temple worship. It can be done in any circumstance by having the spiritual master and having Krishna on your altar. Or like many times when I travel, I just have a little picture of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada, and that's how I do like my evening and morning programs next to them. And that's a temple. Krishna, he says, I'm not there in the spiritual world. I'm not in the heart of the yogi. Yoginam, what is that? Mad bhakta pujayat nikna. Tatra tishtami narada na adhyano vaikuntam. Yoginam adhyano va tatra tishtami mad. I don't remember the Sanskrit. But Narada Muni, he asks Krishna, where are you? And Krishna, he says, I'm not in the heart of the yogis. I'm not in the spiritual world, but I'm there where my devotee glorifies me. And it's sort of connected to me to this previous paragraph where Prabhupada, he mentions that you can worship, or you can, where is that? You can make the deity Archa Vigraha, meaning a deity from what, like 5 types of elements, from the mind, from the wood, from the earth, from metal, from jewels, from paint, from sand, etc. So even more. It's like unlimited, pretty much. So yeah, it's not. The stress is not like which temple you go to, but to do that, to go and meet Krishna. Because if we don't have a desire, try to develop a desire to meet Krishna, we'll develop a desire to meet a mundane personality, to meet the president, or to meet some I don't know, pop star or whatever. Like everyone has this propensity to worship. So Krishna says, worship me, bow down to me. Some people say, well, I don't bow down to anyone, but even before, like Krishna says, you're gonna bow down to death. Even before death, we bow down to so many masters. Maybe not like physically, like, okay, nowadays nobody's bowing down to anyone, but actually everyone is much more in subordination to each other to start, because of this money dynamic that we have, right? So if we don't bow down to the supreme personality of Godhead or the spiritual master, we have to bow down to so many masters. So yeah, and that's kind of what I take from this verse too. How practical is like developing the desire to meet Krishna. It's not just like on the paper, but you feel like that. You bow down to Krishna, or you decorate Krishna. Prabhupada says, like I saw Leah, she has a very beautiful altar there in her temple. And maybe you experienced that already, that if you make a new decoration, like I saw you have a new cow there last week. If you put a new decoration, or you add something, or you go out of your way to increase your, how the altar looks like, your heart becomes more saturated with love. you become more beautiful, you become more ecstatic, you become more enlivened. And it's really like that, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna on the altar as the spiritual master, or as the different personalities there. We are too. We are in them. Not that we like lose our individuality by being in them, but we are too in them, and we are being taken care of by taking care of Krishna.
I have a question. In reference to altars and deities, since we're talking about that. As a newcomer and someone who hasn't ever lived in a temple or worshiped deities in the temple, I've been to temples, but I've never been instructed on the proper stuff. So, when we're creating our altars at home, there's so many. My understanding is that the more I practice bhakti, the more I come to programs, the more I read, the more I chant, the more I learn harmonium. All this stuff is this devotional activity builds my character to be able to understand deities. That's not something that comes at the beginning. And so, when I'm putting my altar together, it started off as a little thing, and I keep adding things and growing in my spirit and everything. And so, yesterday I was just considering that, Prabhupada is sitting here on my altar, and he showed up one day in the mail. I'm not sure where he came from. Like, it was a kind of mysterious package I got from Vrindavan. And so for a while I didn't know if I was ready to do that, to have him present in my home. And so I didn't. And then one day I felt strong enough, but I still feel kind of unprepared or unready for to know what an altar could look like for where I'm at, And so and there's not really much lessons or guidance on that. So I've just been doing what feels right for me. But I didn't know if you could talk about that for a minute, about a little bit about altar and a little about deities on the altar and Prabhupada on the altar and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you, Leah, for your question. Good morning, Prahlad Prabhu, by the way. Thank you for joining the morning.
How do you all? Good morning.
Yeah, I really appreciate your personal mood to how you experience Prabhupada's like coming into your life. Many times I hear from even from devotees or whatever, that I ordered this deity or that thing, and then I got it, and it came, and it's really like they don't realize that actually, no, it's not by our endeavor Prabhupada comes. Prabhupada comes when he wants to come. And of course, we maybe make the order online or whatever, but I really connected to the fact that you appreciate that Prabhupada just appeared in my life. He just came, and I don't know, Prabhupada, I don't know if I'm qualified to serve you here, and this is so beautiful. I really find it really intimate. Prabhupada says that actually that this is a really good mood to, even when we offer food stuff, if we think that, I'm going to offer now Krishna samosas or Kero bladus or whatever, halwa, and he better like it, because I put so many hours into making that, and I bought the best biological, non-GMO, cow-fed grass, something, whatever. He better like it, Krishna is first of all, he's not obliged. Second of all, he doesn't like that, because it doesn't come from a humble place. There's no humility there. And that's what Krishna really eats, humility. I was thinking about it too, that what we can really impress others with, of course we should not try to impress, but what stands out amongst people who don't consider themselves as devotees, or whoever, which quality that we're trying to cultivate stands up, knowledge, there's so many faculties of knowledge in the university, right? Or I don't know, austerity, there's so many other people that rise up even earlier in the morning than us to go and make their living. In London, I remember I lived in London, and people they rise at 2 a.m. there to go to a job, it's really austere. But I find like really this quality that you were sharing of like humility of I'm not qualified to serve Prabhupada, and somehow it came into my life. Like this is really something that can impress anyone, regardless of what his spiritual realization. This is something that I really connect to as being spiritual. Like you cannot have a non-spiritual humility. You know, if it's not spiritual, it's just false humility. You know, it's like it's humiliation, self-humiliation, or you know, all these things. But yeah, and that's what Krishna eats when we offer him food stuff. That's what he gets his taste for how with how much humility and through that the love comes to. I think Muhammad, even in the Quran, he says that if someone is not humble, he cannot love me, or he cannot love God. There is some statement like that in the Quran. So yeah, that's like the most important thing in deity worship, I find. And in terms of like technical aspect, I think Keith Prabhu, you mentioned like a few classes ago that there are different types of worship, right? So I know that Prabhupada's deity, the deity of the spiritual master, is one of the most merciful forms of worship of Krishna, of the deity. So Prabhupada, he meets us all where we at, you know. So I don't think there is a need for like a special precaution, you know. Perhaps in the future that'll be nice we can maybe discuss in the Bhakti Yoga skills or like in a more formal like meeting with like the Sattvatov members, maybe some standard if anyone would like to do something like that. You know, usually that's kind of how it's done. Like devotees they gather together and they decide, okay, we're gonna do this in our community, and everyone agrees and they just follow, you know. But you know, so far that's what I like too about the Sattvatov community, that it's very spontaneous and everyone takes to whatever commitment they can, depends on where they're at. So yeah, I think that's like really the core of how I experience you as just fully humble in your relationship with Prabhupada and ready to do what he would like from you, you know. So it's the most important. Hare Krishna. So we reading Prahlad from the prayers of Queen Kunti. It's kind of like a circle. If anyone would like to pick up from where we left the next verse, you're welcome to do so. It's verse 23. You'd like it? Yeah, sure. Okay. Keith is going to read the 23rd verse.
O Rishikesh, master of the senses and lord of lords, you have released your mother, Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious King Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers. Purport. Devaki, the mother of Krishna and sister of King Kamsa, was put into prison along with her husband, Vasudeva, because the envious king was afraid of being killed by Devaki's 8th son, Krishna. He killed all the sons of Devaki who were born before Krishna. But Krishna accepted the danger of child slaughter because he was transferred to the house. Escaped. Sorry, he escaped. Not.
I have here transferred.
Not accepted. What?
I have here transferred. No, but Krishna escaped the danger.
Yeah, I said accepted. Danger of child slaughter because he was transferred to the house of Nanda Maharaj, Lord Krishna's foster father. Kunti Devi, along with her children, was also saved from a series of dangers. But Kunti Devi was shown far more favor because Lord Krishna did not save the other children of Devaki, whereas he saved the children of Kunti Devi.
That's an interesting point. Eh?
Yeah, this was done because Devaki's husband, Vasudeva, was living, whereas Kunti Dev was a widow. Okay, this was done because Devaki's husband Vasudev was living, whereas Kunti was a widow, and there was none to help her except Krishna. The conclusion is that Krishna endows more favor to a devotee who is in greater dangers. Sometimes he puts his pure devotees in such dangers because in that condition of helplessness, the devotee becomes more attached to the Lord. The more the attachment is there for the Lord, the more success there is for the devotee.
Oh, that's really like a highlight for me. The more attachment is there for the Lord, the more success is there for the devotee. And it seems that Prabhupada in the previous portions, it sort of shows how Krishna makes us more attached by putting us in a more dangerous situation. Because previously he says that devotees who are more in danger, he favors them more. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, one time years ago, this was like, I guess it would be, well, more than 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. I went and I got my my tarot cards done. And this girl, she told me, your failures will bring you closer to God. Yeah. So that's pretty much the path that I've been on.
Yeah, like the verse, Dear Govinda Prabhu, he read, right? The materially exhausted, they're eligible to accept God. So yeah, Krishna. There are so many parallel verses to that. Prabhupada quotes one of them in his arrival to the States. Sorry, not in his arrival, but when he moved to Vrindavan and he left the family and no one cared for him. So he quoted this verse, Yasyam anugrihami arahasi tadasnaha. That Krishna, when he favors someone, he takes it. When he likes someone, he gives them everything when he likes. But when he loves someone, he takes away everything. Snaham arahasi. So yeah, that's so we really like. For me, it's like Krishna really gives us like an extra kick, extra push to not to focus, but to concentrate, to make to have like this contrast in our life. What is important? Like death is coming, or poverty is coming, or this is coming, and like we cannot control that, but what we can control in when critical situations happening, like just like now, we're like I don't know, I feel myself really like maybe 10% in charge of the situation I'm at the moment. But Krishna always gives us the opportunity to internalize and choose our consciousness regardless of what's going on outside. And it cannot be done independently unless we surrender to Krishna. And I think that's kind of the message I take from this, that the more we attach to God, to Krishna, the more we can be transcendental to this, crisis or pandemic or like all these things we get. Yeah. A little spoiler, some of the next verses, Kunti actually gonna pray for danger. So it's a very interesting, because pure devotee means Anya Vilasita Shunyam Jnana Karmanya Nivartam. Anakulena something Krishna Uttama. So it means that devotee never prays for anything. He doesn't want anything from God. But Kunti, she's gonna ask something from God. And what it is, it's like quite disturbing. Don't try it at home. You can if you like. I heard some devotees, they like sort of half jokingly they did that. Malini Mataji, she was relating how she would, in Montreal, she would chant, she would do her japa at some point in front of Narasimhadev's picture. Like apparently there was in the 80s or the 90s, there was a big picture of Narasimhadev in the temple. And they didn't allow they didn't like the Matajis to chant japa next to Prabhupada. So she chanted next to Narasimhadev, and I don't remember if she was asking for to send her some challenges or whatever, but Narasimhadev is so nice. By the way, his appearance day is coming. That he sends them to knock down these obstacles that we create ourselves. We create in our obstacles to surrender to Krishna. So yeah, Queen Kunti, she's praying like that, and that's why I mentioned that. But I heard from some devotees that they did like that, even like jokingly. They're like, okay, let me ask Krishna for trouble, trouble in the sense that like some give me some misery so I can surrender to you better. And Krishna, oh yeah, he's ready to because he's eager. He is 100 times more eager than us that we surrender. So yeah, he sends it. But at the same time, I think even when we do it jokingly, there is like the balance that Prabhupada mentions that God, he never challenges us more than we can actually handle it. Like he gives us exactly what we can handle, which is like, I don't know, for me it seems too much all the time. Well, we have some comments. But, I'm still here. So, okay, Cyril, he went. Okay, thank you, Cyril, for joining. Maybe you join us on the rebroadcast. So yeah, I personally find it too much all the time, but I'm still here, so I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Hare Krishna. How about you, Prahlad Prabhu? You ever prayed like that to Krishna? Give me some dangers and miseries.
Honestly, I've never prayed that.
Okay. Yeah,
I've only prayed, please alleviate my suffering.
Yeah, I too. I never prayed, and I already like going through so many horrible situations in my life. I cannot imagine if you pray like that, what happens.
Yeah, that's a different level.
Moments where I could have some level of gratitude for sufferings that I had gone through, or I was going through it and I could see some opportunity there, and it was like some level of gratitude, but definitely far from actually praying for like more. Yeah. Can I tell a short? There's one funny story with Narada Muni. I don't know if you heard this one. I don't know where it comes from, but he asked Krishna to show him Maya. He wanted to understand what Maya was. He couldn't remember from his previous lives or whatever. And and then he says, "Oh, just go get some water, and then at the river, and then I'll show you." And then he goes down to the river, and I can't remember the exact details of the story, but he hears a woman singing or something like that, or there's a beautiful woman down there, and then they end up talking, and then they really get friendly, and then maybe he falls in the river, and then I can't remember exact detail, but anyway, he comes in contact with this woman, and they end up getting a relationship, and then next thing you know, he marries her.
Narada Muni.
Yeah, and then they raise children and everything, and this is like years, like and then next thing you know, after years, he's got his children there and his wife, and they're having a nice life. And then there's a big storm, and and it floods, and it washes out his home, and all his children and his wife dies, and he's like drowning in the river. I'm like, ugh. And then next thing you know, he wakes up on the ground, and he hears Krishna saying, calling out his name. Where are you? Where are you? We get out and he came back. It was just a dream, but. By the time it seemed like whatever, 15 years or something like that, he just went through this whole thing, but it was just a dream in his head, and then he just came back, and it was like he was gone for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that.
I never heard that story, but it's interesting. It sounds interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Dear Govinda heard it before, but.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to that first, and we're gonna have an opportunity to share more about things like that too. How about the next verse? Anyone would like to read the next one? 24. We can recite the Sanskrit together. Vishal Magane Purushada Darshanad Ashat Sabaya Vanavasha Karshita Marde Marde Naka Maharatar Shato Drona Arshatash Chama Hare Prakashtata. Maybe Kim or Prahlad, if you like. No, it's okay.
Sorry. I'm actually doing something here while I'm listening to you. So.
Okay, that's fine. My dear Krishna, your lordship has protected us from a poisoned cake, from a great fire, from I thought it's cannabis, from cannibals, from vicious assembly, from suffering during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great personalities fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashvatthama, purported by Srila Prabhupada. The list of dangerous encounters is submitted herein. Devaki was once put into difficulty by her envious brother, otherwise she was well. But Kunti Devi and her sons were put into one difficulty after another for years and years together. That's interesting, because previously Prabhupada mentions how she was more fortunate. Well, I guess that's the fortune. She had more dangers. Krishna saved her all sons, but she had to suffer with all her sons in the forest for like 14 years, no? Something like that. They were put into trouble by Duryodhana and his party due to the kingdom, and each and every time the sons of Kunti were saved by the Lord. Once Bhima was administered poison in a cake. Once they were put into a house made of shailak and set afire. Prabhupada, he says that shailak is something like plastic. It's like very highly flammable. And Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, they did like a scheme like that. They wanted to burn them alive in the house, but they didn't succeed. And once Draupadi was dragged out and attempts were made to insult her by stripping her naked in the vicious assembly of the Kurus. The Lord saved Draupadi by supplying an immeasurable length of cloth, and Duryodhana party failed to see her naked. Similarly, when they were exiled in the forest, Bhima had to fight with the man-eater demon Imbadavarakshasha. But the Lord saved him. So it was not finished there. After all these tribulations after all these tribulations, there was a great battle of Kurukshetra, and Arjuna had to meet such generals as Drona, Bhishma, and Karna, all powerful fighters. And at last, even when everything was done away with, there was the Brahmastra released by the son of Dronacharya to kill the child within the womb of Uttara. And so the Lord saved the only surviving descendants of the Kurus, Maharaj Parikshit. Yes, so there are 6 types of aggressors, or 7 types of aggressors, like extreme aggressors they're called, or like aggressors that they punishable by karma in the death sentence. Actually, like if someone kills these aggressors, he is not punishable by karma. Of course, who takes to that duty? It's another question. It's not that everyone in the Vedic culture would take to that responsibility of retaliating someone's someone's attempts for burning the house, burning someone's house, kidnapping one's wife. What else is there? Poison. Then for plundering riches, property like land. If someone takes someone's land, like now this in the Middle East, like everyone is like, the land belongs to the Jews. No, the Palestinians, the Christian Orthodox, the Armenians, the Baptists, and everyone is fighting for the land. So yeah, that's true. It's a very touchy subject matter because if someone transgresses that, the law of karma is that he's actually punishable by death. And the last one was some other, anyways. But yeah, all these things were all these things. The Kunti and her sons, they experienced that, and yet they didn't actually attempt to retaliate by killing anyone. They just accepted that, like they were sent to exile, and then in exile they were attempted to, all these things actually happened in exile. They were attempted to be poisoned, to be burned, to all these things. Their woman was kidnapped, Draupadi was kidnapped from them too. I don't remember how they got her back really, but and they could retaliate and not be implicated, but they didn't. But Krishna, he got so angry that that's actually why he did the battle of Kurukshetra. If some of you know the Bhagavad Gita, so how many people were killed there, like what, 60 million people or something that were killed. So it all happened because they insulted this family, specifically insulted Draupadi. And Prabhupada speaks often how that was like the last straw, that when the Kurus insulted Draupadi by trying to strip her naked and kidnap her and like that, Krishna couldn't tolerate that anymore, and he just, okay, we have to separate the penny from the straw. Prabhupada calls it, to separate to get rid of the junk, the Kurus. Dronacharya had Duryodhana had, Dhritarashtra had 100 sons, and all of them, they wanted to inherit the kingdom, although the kingdom belonged to Arjun and his brothers, because they were the sons of Pandu, Kunti's husband. But Dhritarashtra, he wanted his sons to enjoy that, and that was not legitimate. It's one of the aggressions to take someone's property. And even at some point, Vidura, their cousin, the cousin of is like somewhere in between there in the Kurus, between the Kurus and the Pandavas. He was trying to speak some sense to Dhritarashtra and tell him, why don't you just give 5 villages, not even like a kingdom or just a village, to every one of the brothers, because they're Kshatriyas. We all have our propensity in society. Now Kalo Shudra Sambhava, everyone is a Shudra. But in general, when the Vedic culture was administrated, they were very fixed on their Varna and the ashram. Like a Brahmana, someone who would, teach people about God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, he would be fixed in his Varna. He would not go and contemplate now how to earn his livelihood. Sometimes they would do, but the Kshatriya, for example, they cannot now take a subordinate position. They have to practice their lording it over mentality, their lording it over propensity. So they need to administrate. They need to be like administrators. They need to be in charge. And Vidura suggested to him, well, why don't you just give them some place to be in charge of? And Dronacharya, why I keep saying Dronacharya? Dhritarashtra, he said, I will not even give them a land that can hold, that the tip of the needle can hold, can be held on the tip of the needle. So then Vidura understood, I'm speaking to an insane man. It's not up to me anymore. So yeah, then Krishna, he had to do the battle, and yeah, all these personalities, they were pretty much all of them were killed. Most of them, 60 or 600 million people.
It was 600 million.
600 million.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, so many nice points here. Maybe something comes to you, Prabhu, some points in this verse. Yeah, that's like more or less the plot of the Mahabharata. It explained very detail what was going on. Okay, next is this verse about the calamities. Okay, Leah, would you like to read about the calamities? We can recite the Sanskrit together.
Okay.
Vipada santu tatha shashvat tatra jagat guru papado darshanam yatshaya apunar bhava darshanam.
Translation. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see rebirth, repeated births and deaths. Report. Okay. Generally, the distressed, the needy, the intelligent, and the inquisitive who perform some pious activities worship or begin to worship the Lord. Others who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme due to being misled by the illusory energy. Therefore, for a pious person, if there's some calamity, there's no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they're welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. That's pretty juicy. You want to stop for a minute?
Yeah.
So weren't you just saying earlier, like that's when we tend to find God is when we're having the worst time of our life. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nescience, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoofs of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside on the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. The material world is certified by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortune, one should make progress in spiritual realization because that's the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. Actually, there's no tiger and there's no suffering. It's simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, I like that. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it's all gain. Contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step in the path of going back to Godhead. It's a really nice verse. Kind of sums everything up.
What is happening for you, Leah, when you read it? Because I sense that many things touched many aspects, perhaps, of your life.
Well, I don't know. I just like how succinct it is. It kind of takes a lot of things that we've learned from the Gita and other scriptures and just puts it into this one simple. Like if we look at life, all this stuff that happens that we consider problems, if we look at it as a dream, if it has nothing to do with the soul, the perpetuation of the soul, then it's not really a calamity. So get over it, and then of course everybody in this group can relate to that. Not being reactive, and let's see. I think I like the lucky part. I feel lucky a lot of times. I think I say that to myself a lot every day. I feel like personally the lucky part is, and even still I'm resistant sometimes, but for the most part, every day I count my blessings for being here where I'm at right now. And I don't lament so much over all the wasted years as much as I used to, of years of being in trying to control the calamities. And I might still try to control the calamities. Pretty much still do that. But I like being one of the lucky ones. I mean, I don't know if I'm grounded in lucky, but I at least have glimpses of it.
Yeah, in the midst of the calamities, you do connect to this feeling Krishna's special tender care for you.
Yeah, yeah. Just like Prabhupada showing up in the mail, it's like that. Those things, those types of things happen to me so much that I don't deny it as Krishna's mercy anymore. Yeah.
I think we were once like analyzing how, like statistically, how lucky we are, like in terms of like numbers of like, because I mean, you can calculate actually what are the chances in the sense that we hear when Prabhupada is here and Lord Chaitanya is here and Krishna is here. It's like Krishna appears once in the day of Brahma, right? And a day of Brahma is like what, 1,000 Chatur Yugas, which is 4,300,000 multiplied by 1,000, which is like 4,300,000,000. And then that multiplied like twice more than that because there is a night. So it's already like, it's a pretty lucky, like we are pretty lucky to be in that. And then there is a statement too that Lord Chaitanya is not appearing actually every time that Krishna appears. That's still like, that's a special mercy from Krishna because he's a hidden incarnation, meaning that he's not appearing every time specifically when Krishna appears. Sometimes he's not appearing when Krishna appears. So yeah, we're terribly crazy lucky, and like not taking that to that opportunity is like, I give the example many times, is like you won the lottery and you won a lottery for like, I don't know, $8 billion, and you don't go and you withdraw. You don't withdraw you don't go to the bank to get the prize, you know, because you I don't know, you're afraid that you're gonna have to pay taxes or whatever, or something silly like that. So it's really like everyone's position on the planet right now is like that. We all won the lottery, won a scholarship, you name it, you know. So we're really, really lucky. Thank you, Leah, for highlighting that. Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's I'm like, what's going for me, I'm like trying to relate to Kunti, like, wow, she's praying for more miseries, more calamities, because she just wants to see Krishna. Like, she experiencing how Krishna is more present when something bad is happening, and that's just so inconceivable. Because I'm kind of like where Prahlad Prabhu was sharing that, when something bad, I think that's what he was sharing, that when something bad happens, so he asked Krishna, please save me from the situation, or please protect me. So, that's why we chant Narasimhadev prayers in the beginning of the programs for this protection. But I think when we sort of, when I realize that, oh, I'm protecting myself from myself, like the Narasimhadev pastime, like we are actually I am the Harinakashipu, I am the demon. And Narasimhadev, when I realize that I'm the demon, then maybe then I will be eligible to pray like this. Krishna, send me some danger so I can purify that demonic propensity to enjoy and lord it over material nature. That's what's happening for me, at least.
You pray to Krishna for that, not to Lord Srinivasa.
Yeah, then you start praying to Krishna.
You don't want the Srinivasa to come and tear that part of you apart.
Yeah, then Krishna comes to the picture. Krishna, just give me as much as I can handle. I have like a prayer like that I do before I go to bed. I pray, Krishna, please teach me humility and tolerance. And I pray to Prabhupada, actually, not to Krishna, but Prabhupada, please teach me humility and tolerance and give me the strength to endure these teachings and not hide from becoming more humble, becoming more tolerant, because it's so easy to hide from embracing true humility. And it can go in so many different masks and coverings, like being, instead of being humble, like being humiliated, being victimized, being, guilty and shameful, and you don't learn anything like that. You don't get the juice of like the teachings from just thinking that, you're nothing or whatever. No, we are something. We are part and parcel of Krishna. So it's a very humbling position. And yeah, I think from there's so much potential growth for me. So I would like to connect to that more with time to come. Hare Krishna. Like this band they had, so he had the song. Oh, the internet connection. And I don't remember how he sings it. Maybe I can link it to you after. But he sings about this boat analogy, like he made a song using Prabhupada's analogy, how, that you have a good boat, which is, the material body, and the captain, which is the spiritual master. And if we just let the captain do his thing, he can take us to our destination, like going back to God. So yeah, spiritual master is like the captain of this boat. And then it's very easy, just like hoofs of a calf. The pitfalls in material creation are just little holes of imprints of hoof of a calf. Makes it seem very, very easy, which it is. It is very easy. But I think we are difficult, right? Prabhupada says, right? Difficult for the crooked, easy for the simple. So like Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple, difficult for the crooked. So if I try to find a way how not to surrender to Krishna, then yeah, it's so difficult not to surrender actually to Krishna. You have to do this thing and that thing and so many plans, but surrender is, in a sense, it's the easiest thing we can really do. Just let Krishna be the charioteer, which he is already the charioteer, right? Like he's no one who is in charge of his body. Like if our hand becomes paralyzed or our head we have a headache, or immediately we're not in charge. Actually, we're never in charge. Yeah. Hare Krishna. There's something like kind of liberating, I think, in that state of understanding that we're not in charge, because it sounds kind of obvious. Anyways, I'll leave to you to share, maybe Prabhu, if you would like to share something. Otherwise, we can continue some other time. Tomorrow, Malini, I think on the schedule, Mother Malini, she would lead the morning discussion, and Wednesday it's me again. So yeah, a few more verses, and each verse is like, wow, it's such a wave of like devotional emotions are there. Like my favorite verse actually is coming up. We're gonna read it on Wednesday. I'm gonna spoil the surprise and I'm gonna share it. That verse. It's like, I think it's my favorite verse ever. Definitely one of them. Where is that? It's about the ocean. I really like the ocean, so it's kind of, I'm naturally connected to that verse already. And where is it? Yeah, when we finish the chapter or the portion of the Kunti pairs, I welcome you all to pick a favorite verse, and maybe you would like to share like a very intimate and specific realization about that verse in your life after we're done with the reading. I cannot find it, but I'll just paraphrase. Krishna, the Kunti prayers are just like the Ganges flow to the ocean, so let my attraction be drawn to you like that, Krishna. And yeah, the purport is true. It really goes deep into this concept of what does it mean to be attracted to God, to Krishna. It's not, Prabhupada goes to like counteracting impersonal tendencies in so-called surrender, like so-called dismantling attachments. Like so many times I find myself like, giving up things because, I'm so surrender, I can give up this. I don't need to get married. I don't need to do this. I don't, but it creates block in my spiritual life. And Prabhupada in that verse, he helps to dissolve these blocks. Hare Krishna. Okay, so if everyone feels complete, we can close the session and continue Wednesday morning. Everyone feeling complete?
Yeah. Haribo.
Hari Hari, thank you so much, Prabhu, for joining. I wish you
Ramachandra Prabhu.